All right, everybody, take a deep breath. That was a wild one. It was a little bit more of a nail biter than it should have been. And that's not a knock on the Canes. I thought that they were excellent tonight. I'm going to get into all that here in a little bit. So, short version here is I thought the entire team looked good. Freddie, there was a couple of them he should have had. If it wasn't for the post, that game is 8-3. That's even before you account for Jarvis's empty netter. And it good all around effort. They gelled pretty well today against a completely healthy Devils team that certain people swear up and down would have destroyed the Canes in the playoffs, despite them having a fully healthy team against a team missing 3 top 6 forwards, and they didn't win the last time. So, but yeah, Matthew, belt to ass, and that's a good way to start the season. So I'm very, very happy with how the team played overall tonight. So we're going to get into all that. All right, the please don't sue me slide. If you wish to read it, you can pause it. Final score, 6-3. The post made almost as many saves as Jacob Markstrom did. Expected goals, Carolina had 3.71 to 1.64 for the Devils. 5-on-5, Carolina had 2.26 to 1.41. 1 for 4 on the power play. New Jersey was 0 for 2. No shorthanded goals to speak of in this one. 5-on-5 goals, Carolina had 4. They could have had way more, as we've already talked about. Shots on goal total, Carolina had 33 to New Jersey's 22. Shot attempts total, 73 to 45. Face-off percentage, Carolina 53.1 to 46.9 for New Jersey. Carolina had 4 penalty minutes to New Jersey's 8. Now getting into the actual game here, Carolina looked really good from the outset of this game. Great puck movement, great offensive zone retention. And the thing I noticed with the O-zone retention in this one, it was not just strictly the dump and chase, forecheck, grind, and get it back. It was very calculated. It was very deliberate. And what chances they were creating, they were actually generating them themselves. They weren't just coming from arbitrary shots from outside the dots or at the point and everything like that. So there was a lot more calculation, it felt like, to the way that Carolina was operating in the offensive zone. So in the first period, New Jersey had 15 shot attempts to Carolina's 22. Carolina had 9 shots on goal to New Jersey's 6. Expected goals, Carolina 0.99 versus New Jersey 0.54. Carolina was the only team to score in that period. Taylor Hall would score off of a deflection from the point, shot taken by Shane Gostisbehere, and Alexander Nikishin has his first regular season assist as a Hurricane. So speaking of Nikishin, I thought that he looked really, really good tonight. His puck management was much better. He didn't make some of the, boneheaded passes he was before. He was being a lot more calculated, a lot more controlled when he had possession of the puck, especially below the goal line in the defensive zone. He wasn't just wrapping it around the boards or arbitrarily throwing it up the middle. So significantly better performance by him, leaps and bounds better than what we saw of him and the little bit we saw of him in the playoffs last season. So that's how that period would end. It was a really good start for the Hurricanes, and they got rewarded for it with Taylor Hall's goal. Jacob Slavin, I'm going to say this about probably all 3 periods, but one of the reasons I don't believe in plus minus, Jacob Slavin was a -1 tonight. There were 2 5-on-5 goals against him while he was on the ice, and both of them, there wasn't much you could really do about. That's one of the reasons I don't put stock in plus minus, because Jacob Slavin was absolutely shutting Jack Hughes down tonight. He couldn't have done a better job than what he did. He really couldn't have. So, and I'm going to try and go back and clip this game and pull some stuff out. You go on to the second period here. Carolina this is where the sloppiness in their neutral zone transition game, AJ alluded to it on the broadcast as well. The neutral zone transition game was a little bit off tonight for Carolina. Typically they do it with more speed. I think that was part of everybody, having all the new guys on the team kind of getting to know each other, because once you actually play with people and you start developing some chemistry, you can anticipate where they're going to go. Like, when you're going to, like, for example, make an exit out of the zone as a defenseman, and you've got your head up and you're scanning and looking for where you want to pass a puck to, it's a lot easier to anticipate that and make that play when you have some chemistry, you have some familiarity and some acclimation with the players around you, because you look and say, okay, I look at player A, I look at player B. I know that player A doesn't move his feet as fast and he's not as prone to cutting to the middle, where player B will cut straight to the middle at nearly a 90-degree angle, and I can lead him with that pass and send it right up the middle, and he's going to be there to get it. Whereas with player A, I kind of have to, look off of him a little bit, and it's just basically, it's an art. It's kind of like a quarterback knowing what routes his receivers like to run and stuff like that. So that's one of those things that they'll have to clean up a little bit, but for the most part, very, very good look right there, or very, very good looking otherwise. But the neutral zone transition play was a little sloppy. The neutral zone puck management wasn't the best, but pretty good. So you go on to the second period. This is where things evened out a little bit. New Jersey had 17 shot attempts to Carolina's 26, 11 shots on goal for New Jersey to Carolina's 14. Expected goals 0.56 for New Jersey, 1.18 for Carolina. Give me 1 second here. I got to pull something up. I don't know why this thing is doing this. Give me 1 second to fix something here, guys. So Dougie Hamilton would score later on here at the 8:15 mark of the second period. Walker kind of left Slavin out to dry a little bit when he was up ice. Slavin tried to shut down a 2-on-1. He did what he was supposed to do in that situation where he initially took the pass, took the open man so that the goalie could focus on the shot. But Slavin didn't entirely eliminate the pass, but he's one of those defensemen that he's good enough to where he can make that last second change in direction and typically, limit a shot attempt, stop a shot attempt, block a shot, everything like that. In that situation, there wasn't really much he could do. Oh, wait, no, excuse me. I'm talking about the wrong goal. Sorry, my bad. So Dougie Hamilton found some open ice. He cut to the middle. We saw him do that all the time in Carolina, where plays going on. He jumps in at one particular moment. He's not the fastest skater. His acceleration isn't the best, but he's got a lot of smooth edge work, and he's got a nose for the net and everything. Made that backhander happen on Freddie Anderson. Backhanders like that are hard to stop. They're very unpredictable. The puck tends the knuckle and everything like that. So the other two goals, I think, were kind of on Freddie, but that one not so much. Wasn't really that big of a deal. Then Keandre Miller would answer at the 9:23 mark. And when he took that shot, it just kind of knuckled over. He was assisted by William Carrier and Jordan Martinook on that. Key gets his first as a Hurricane. I thought he looked excellent all the way around tonight. But one of the things I've talked about in the past with Keandre Miller when he came to Carolina, this is a kid that's got a really good shot. I know that wasn't the most deliberate one as far as the way that it went in, but he's got a really good shot. And with a team that loves volume shooting and getting shots from the point like Carolina does, he was going to get his chances to shoot. And he took advantage of that one there. And he had several shot attempts tonight. I'd have to go back and look and see how many he actually had. But he was excellent on both sides of the puck. But he didn't make any mistake with that. He took that shot, and Carolina goes up 2-1. Now, when you get to the Cody Glass, or when you get to the Cody, or that made it 2-1. When you get to the Cody Glass goal, which that's where the 2-on-1 I was talking about with Slavin. I'm sorry, I got the two confused because I wasn't planning on doing this show tonight, but I'm so amped up, I'm not going to be able to sleep anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and just talk about, or go ahead and get the show done tonight. So Slavin got kind of caught out in no man's land. He did what he was supposed to do initially, where he takes the open man so that the goalie can concentrate on the shot. And then he started to change course at the last second, try to pivot and, get in the way of that shot, get a stick on it, disrupt it, or at least make himself an obstacle. A lot of defensemen are not good enough to do that as quickly as he can. So a lot of times in that situation, it works out well for him. In that particular case, it didn't. So Cody Glass snipes one. Luke Hughes gets a point on it. And New Jersey scores there to make it 2-2. So you go on to the third period here. And Keandre Miller scores a power play goal. And this is one of the things that I've been talking about that Carolina's been missing, is that second lethal power play unit to make those things happen. And because the first unit's not always going to get it done, the first unit might be gas. The first unit might, need to, might not be getting it done. So you need that lethality in the second power play unit. It looks like, maybe there's the foundation for Carolina to have that there now. So one of the things tonight was Ben don't break, as Trip Tracy often says. And there was a little bit too much bend for my taste because New Jersey was able to answer every single time. But Carolina eventually finally ran away with it after hitting the post 5 times, because I was getting a little frustrated with that, because you guys know I don't like that sound at either end of the ice, because at one end of the ice it means I allowed a shot attempt and I got lucky. At the other end of the ice it means that I shot the puck and hit the post, which I do like 1 out of every 3 shots. So after Bratt's goal, that was another one where Slavin did what he could on that. He got a stick on it before the cross ice pass that eventually found its way to Jesper Bratt's stick. So again, that's why I don't like plus minus as a stat. Jacob Slavin was excellent tonight and he came out -1. So that's one of the reasons why I just think that stat's not good, and people just try to use it to shit on players that they don't like. But after that, Seth Jarvis will finally get rewarded at 17-17 mark. Seth Jarvis scores. Aho gets his second assist of the night from Shane Goss' spare. And then the Devils pull the goalie shortly after that. Great zone entry denial by Jarvis. And then that eventually leads to the empty net goal. And Eric Robinson puts a little bit of extra icing on the cake at 1947 with his first goal of the season from Taylor Hall and Jesperi Kotkaniemi. So speaking of that KK Hall, or the Hall KK Robinson line, I loved what I saw from that line tonight. So that's what I was talking about in Landfall earlier. You have 3 scoring lines and a shutdown line that goes out there and eats up about 12 or 14 minutes or so to, make sure that the game stays close, and so that your scoring threats can have a better chance of going out and getting a net positive and having fresh legs when they get out there. So I was really, really happy with the team in that whole regard. The only person I thought was a little bit off tonight was Freddie. Ehlers made some good plays. He had some good speed. You see a lot of the same things that Nate just had in his game with Ehlers: the speed, the quickness, the really fast entries, kind of at a little bit of an angle, everything like that. There was all that was there for him. I think he's got some acclimating to do. One of the other things I was really happy about, Aho shot the puck a lot tonight. I need to go back and look and see how many shot attempts that he had on his own, but I know he fanned on a couple of them and he still passed up a couple of good opportunities to shoot. But when you shoot the puck, good things will happen. So that was one of the other things, like on Jarvis's goal. Give me 1 second here, guys. So that was one of the things with what I was talking about before about why Aho needs to shoot the puck more, is because it's not always necessarily. Yeah, I know he had 3 shots on goal, Tony. I was talking about like how many shot attempts he had. He had to have at least 10 shot attempts, but because he had one, he rang off the post. He had a couple that missed. Like, he had to be up there in shot attempts. He fanned on one too. I don't know if that's statistically registered as a shot attempt, but not to mention one of the one of the shots that he took resulted in Jarvis's goal. So that's the thing I'm talking about with Aho shooting the puck more. When Aho shoots the puck more, good things happen. It's not always necessarily about him being the one putting the puck in the net. It's about him generating rebounds, or creating situations where pucks can get deflected in, like they did off of Jarvis on that goal. And that was the goal that ultimately led to the Hurricanes winning the game. So that's the other things that you have to consider there with stuff like that. So that's why I'm kind of like that. That's why I've been harping on that so much. Aho shot the puck a ton tonight. He needs to keep that going. He needs to have that little bit of selfishness, because that little bit of selfishness will go a long way for the guys around him. So really happy with him. He also had 2 assists tonight. So let me go ahead and take this off the screen. So I've got some other handwritten notes here I'm going to get to. Then I'll get to the comments, and then I'm going to call it a night because I have to work tomorrow. And if I want to make it to the gym before I go to work, because I'm trying to, make these bigger, I'm going to have to get to bed at a decent hour. It's just, this is helping me wind down a little bit, because I was wound up during that third period, man. Like I every time that like they kept hitting the post, and I'm just sitting there grinding my teeth, and half of my teeth are made of titanium. So that doesn't always feel good. Everyone looked good. Ehlers was a little bit off. Freddie was a little bit off. So I guess this was just not a good night to be Danish and playing for the Hurricanes. That's about it. But even then, they weren't bad. They just were a little bit off. Kane's neutral zone transition does need work. That will come with time as the players start to acclimate to one another. On the early power play, the one that was abbreviated, there was or not the one that was abbreviated, the second one, there was a little bit too much passing, but at the same time, I thought that the puck movement looked really good. There was a lot of confidence you could see in them and everything like that, but the way that they were going about it and everything like that, everyone was moving the feet. They were cycling really well. So good foundation there to make the power play a weapon. If this team can manage to have 2 lethal power play units, it's going to be in really good shape. All right, so Walker did hang Slavin out to dry a couple of times, but I liked how confident he looked going up the ice. He spent a lot of time, joining the rush, generating offense, making more plays, everything like that. So I liked what I saw of him there. Again, bend, don't break. New Jersey managed to answer on the first 3 goals, and they managed to do it relatively quickly, to be expected with a team that's as offensively capable as the New Jersey Devils are. And like I said, Jacob Slavin shut down Jack Hughes tonight, despite letting up 2 5-on-5 goals and, being a -1. That's why I don't like that stat, because he made several good defensive plays on Jack Hughes. In particular, he made several good defensive plays in general, but he made plenty of them on Jack Hughes, and that is their number 1 scoring threat amongst their forwards. So good job by him there. And I liked what I saw out of everybody up and down the lineup. It was really good. You've got a legitimate top 6 now. Stankoven at center, I think, looked pretty good. He's made some progress towards what he needs to be. If he continues to play this way, that's going to solve this team's biggest problem, and then the biggest problem could potentially become the goaltending. So I know Freddie was a little bit shaky tonight, but it's the first game back. Give him some time. I'm sure he'll acclimate to it. We have to consider he's had a lot of injuries over his career. He's a little bit older, and goaltenders, like, their career is like dog years compared to human years because of everything that they put their body through, especially starting goalies who play a lot. And Freddie is, definitively he's a starter, so he's had a lot of games under his belt. So there's going to be some wear and tear there and everything like that. So once he kind of starts getting a little bit better and everything like that, everything will be fine. I just think that, he needed to knock some rust off tonight. Everybody did, but him in particular, he really needed to knock it off, and he just didn't knock all the rust off. He'll be fine going forward. I really believe that. So good setup going into Saturday to play against the Flyers. So I like what I'm seeing there. All right, I'm going to get to some of the comments here. Evan Smith says, so glad hockey is back. Wish ESPN Plus showed Key's post-game interview. Yeah, I saw him walking over to Shane Willis holding the microphone, and I thought that that's what they were going to pan to, but then they put Jarvis on the headset. But at that point, I had already stopped paying attention because I was starting to get the show ready. Colby McLam says, we are back. Yes, we are. Evening all, Matthew says, frankly, we put the belt to ass on them. Yeah, we really did. Yeah, Devils were very lucky that the score didn't get out of hand. Yeah, especially with like all the posts that Carolina kept hitting. I mean, New Jersey hit 1 that I remember, maybe 2. But yeah, it was. I was getting really sick of that damn post by the 3rd period. I was over it. Paniac says, I'll be home soon. Warm up the PS5. I told you to make your own account. Do not race on my NASCAR 25 account. Dylan Bollinger says, well, how about that? Some of the guys I was worried about starting the season look fantastic. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, Nikishin looks significantly more confident than he did before, like by a lot. So I was really, really happy with what he was doing, especially in the defensive zone. He's not joining the rush that much yet. He did pinch. He did make some aggressive plays coming from the blue line to deeper in the offensive zone. We want to see him do that, but we also have to consider his defensive partner is Gostisbehere, so you don't want to do too much of it. You don't want to hang Gostisbehere out to dry. He's not Slavin. He can't shut down nearly as much as, someone like Slavin or Chatfield or even Walker could, but that's a good thing for him to have in his toolkit, because there were a couple of plays that would have died that he kept alive in the offensive zone by playing that aggressive game. Kokoniemi's skating, like I can say this definitively now, after watching that in high definition on the big screen, Kokoniemi's skating has 110% improved. I saw, like, there was one point where he took a face off and he stepped immediately into a backwards crossover, and he went one way, then stepped over the other way, and I could tell how much smoother the cutting of his skates was. like he was pivoting much better. So that's, like I've always said, that's always been the thing that's held Kokaniemi back from being a great player is his skating. He's got all kinds of other good things to his game. And that one power move he made in the first period, I was very impressed with that. If he keeps doing stuff like that, he'll make the type of impact the Canes need him to make. Yeah, Nikishin was spectacular. Yep, power play goal. That was Miller's second goal. Aho had to assist, correct? Ehlers was his own entry and passing machine. Yeah, that's what I'm saying about Ehlers. He has a lot of the same skills that Natchez has. It's just you add some defensive responsibility and a little less schizophrenia when he has possession of the puck. He's a little bit more confident when he's carrying the puck, even if he's got guys on him and everything like that. So you got a player with a similar skill set, but a little bit more complete. Maybe not as much God-given talent, but similar skill set and more complete of a player than Natchez is. So I was pretty happy with how he was playing. Everyone watching, hit the like button. Thank you. I appreciate it. Ehlers is going to make Aho shoot it. I'm good with that. I've been asking for that for, 5 years or 4 years now that I've been asking for Aho to shoot the puck more. Because 1920, that dude was unstoppable and he shot the puck all the time. Tonight, he had to have 10 shot attempts. I didn't keep perfect track of them, but I did my best. Aho did shoot the puck a lot more, so good start. Yes, Aho needs to shoot the puck more. How about that fourth line? Yeah, that fourth line was good. Slavin was hung out by Walker a bit. Yeah, I want Walker to get up ice. I really do. And he's got the speed and the skating ability to get back in position like I've talked about before. So that's just one of those things where those two guys are going to have to adjust to each other. But for their first game together, other than the little bit that they played, because they've never played a full game together. They've only played 123 minutes total together, sprinkled over the course of the regular season at times, and then a couple of extended looks during the playoffs. And it's like over time that'll acclimate. Walker will learn when and when not to jump in the rush, when and when not to pinch, when and when not to go deep in the offensive zone to create chances, all that type of stuff. Hockey Haggerty also says no excuses that were never allowed for other players. Chevy 80 says that glass goal on Freddie is on Freddie, not on Slavin. I agree with that. Tony D says just got home from the game. Tulski once again proves he's a very smart GM. Yeah, he's an excellent GM. People shouldn't threaten him. Well, Tony is called the Mads. He really is. Key's second goal was an absolute piss missile. Yes. That kid's got a cannon of a shot. Like I said, in Carolina, he's going to get his chances to shoot the puck. And he showed what he can do with that tonight. He's not going to get 2 goal games every night. But he can do it. And another thing about Miller, there were a few times where he made some puck possession plays where he used his frame and protected the puck really well. He was really good below the goal line in the defensive zone. He didn't get pissed off of it very easy. He didn't turn it over behind his own net at all. He looked good all the way around. The 2 goals was just the cherry on top. But I thought he played a very, very complete game, and I think that he's going to fit into this system very well. I also wasn't expecting the Keishan Ghost to be that good. Time will tell if that's going to hold up. And like I said, I'm not expecting the defensive pairs to be the same at the end of the season, regardless, because the only reason Nikishin is on the third pair right now, other than the whole 4 left-handed defensemen, 2 right-handed defensemen thing, is because he still has to learn the system, learn the language, and, acclimate to playing the way that the Hurricanes need him to play. But tonight looked like a huge step forward in that regard. Blew it right through Markstrom's glove. Yeah, that Key has got a shot. Watching someone as big as Miller move as well as he does is insane. Genetics rule. Shit, I should have read that. Colby McLam says Tony Nikishin looked like he was second guessing all night too and was still very solid. Not as much as he did in the playoffs last year, and not as much as he did in the preseason, honestly. Because like I said before, him adjusting to the pace of playing in the NHL versus the K, that was going to, all the time and space he had to make decisions before, even though, us looking at it from our frame of reference, it's a split second difference. But their frame of reference, they're right up in it. They're going to notice a much bigger difference than we are, and it's clearly faster in the NHL. So now that he's gotten a taste of that, I think that he'll start to make better decisions. He showed signs of it tonight. He did make better decisions in a lot of situations where he wasn't before. So as time goes on, that will get better. Matthew also says New Jersey were opportunistic, but got so unlucky with our goalposts, and their goals were off broken lucky plays. Yeah, and that was one of the things I talked about in Landfall Hour. New Jersey doesn't need Carolina kind of needs a wealth of time in the offensive zone to make things happen. New Jersey doesn't. New Jersey doesn't have to be there long and cycle the puck too much or have too much possession of it to hurt you with all the weapons that they have, particularly in their top six, and particularly 2 of their 6 defensemen will really hurt you in that regard. Tony D says KK looked good outside of the faceoff circle. Probably was just an off night for him. Yeah, I hope he gets it above 50 this year. But like I said, I'm not a big faceoff believer, not in this day and age. I know I've elaborated on that a ton in the past. Matthew P says Hall, KK Robinson was incredible. Yeah, they were. I really liked what I saw of that line. If that line keeps playing like that, we're going to be in good shape. Reese says, not sure if it's just me, but the Stahl line really didn't play well tonight. I think the speed of NJ really cooked them, especially Stahl. Yeah, that line's kind of slow. So, they did their job for the most part, but that's one of those things. It's like long term. If we're talking years from now, that a line like that is not. It's not just those 3 players in particular, but like the old school traditional shutdown line like that. It's because those types of players they're dying off. Jordan Stahl is essentially the last of his kind. And, those types of players, the more one-dimensional defensive forward the pure shutdown line, it's kind of going away. It's the same thing with defensive pairs. Not many teams, not many competitive ones have pure shutdown pairs. They typically have one guy who's more of a two-way offensively minded guy and the other one's a safety valve. Forward lines are kind of going the same way where you have, 1 or 2 offensively minded players and one forward who's more of a shutdown type of player that has a really good two-way 200-foot game. Or in the inverse of that, you have 2 guys that fit the 200-foot game mold and then one guy who's, very offensively productive and everything. So there's that as well. Matthew P says Ehlers isn't doing the selfish thing that Nate just did, which was try to skate through everyone. Excellent point, because that, like I said, they have similar skill sets, but there's a lot of time Nate just would try to take it 1-on-4 and walk it through 4 guys, and there's just not many players who can do that. And the ones who are capable of doing that, they don't do it very often, and when they do, you hear about it for weeks. So Ehlers, I think, is better at judging those situations to say, okay, I can use my speed and I can burn this guy, or okay, this isn't it. I need to pull up. I need to make a pass. I need to do something different. That's the biggest difference between them. Haggerty says, absolutely electric to watch that line tonight. I literally have no voice. Lenovo was lit. Yeah, it was fun to watch on TV. I can only imagine how fun it was when I was there. Yeah, but yeah, Aho he shot the puck a lot. I want to go back and see how many shot attempts he actually had. Sam, that's not a good idea, buddy. I hope you're near a hospital. Reese Bailey, or Matthew says Reese Bailey. Yeah, I agree. New Jersey was really fast through the neutral zone. Yeah, they were. That's where Carolina had a bit of a problem with them tonight. I thought Ehlers was great. Yeah, he's got some work to do. He's got some things to acclimate to, but for a first game in a new system after playing, I think it was 9 years in Winnipeg, not bad at all. Boom played awesome. Wasabi says, yes, I agree. Post sucked tonight. Yeah, that they always suck. I hate the post, but it shows how close we're. Yeah, no, absolutely. That was a great game, but I'm so ready for the Flyers and Hurricanes and the actual Hurricanes broadcast. Yeah, me too. ESPN wasn't as unbearable as normal, but it's still ESPN. Agree on KK. Lightning NC says Ehlers looked good once he stopped looking to the refs for a call every play. Yeah, I noticed that a little bit too. Tony D says, I wish that PP1 would start letting Ehlers enter the zone. They did in the third period. Like, it looked like he was the one that was... That's another thing I have to say about the power play. The zone entries looked much better. That's something to keep an eye on. They look significantly better. Caver says, I think Stank did a great job at 2C today. Yeah, definitely made progress. Got to the front of the net when he needed to. Back checked very quickly when the play came out of Carolina's offensive zone. Puck pursuit was really good. I was really happy with what I saw of him. Confidence of all 4 lines. Yeah, as long as they keep up this chemistry and they don't have to get mixed up, this is good. What they got there is good. Ethan says, Hall, KK Robinson giving all the vibes. This team is totally different beast with this level of depth. Despite the score sheet, the entire top six looks to only get more dangerous with the reps. God, this team is growing. Yeah, it absolutely has. I like what I saw tonight. There's a good foundation here. Wasabi says Rangers talk crap about Miller, can suck rope. Yeah, I agree. I think that, like, and maybe every fan base does this, because Carolina fans, like, not us in particular, but some of them are very guilty of scapegoating players that they don't like for, even if it's reasons unrelated to hockey and things that they don't know the entirety of the situation of. Tony DeAngelo. So, that's one of those things that they tend to do. And, KK's been one of the scapegoats and, stuff like that. And I think that the Rangers fans were just kind of using Miller to, blame all their other problems on, even though, once Trouba was gone, Miller was their favorite guy to blame for things. Schneider was one of their favorite guys to blame for things too. But, sometimes good players aren't always good fits. We saw that with Natchez, and Bunting and, whoever else. So that's why I was really happy to see that Miller had the night that he had. Dylan says Miller and Chatty seem to have chemistry. Yeah, I think they do too. I think that's going to be the second coming of the Shea and Pesci pair, and maybe it could be better, as I've said on many, many occasions. So I want to see how they continue to develop, but they looked pretty good together. So I think that pair is only going to get better by the time. That's the one pair that I don't want to see change from now until the end of the season. I think that's the one pair that will not change. So, like, you guys noticed all the different configurations that I showed in the defensive pairs projections. I really like that pair. I think that's going to be that steady second pair that doesn't change. And you can swap Walker and Gostisbehere, for example, and put Walker with Nikishin and Ghost with Slavin, or put Nikishin up there with Slavin and put Walker back with Ghost. That second pair, though, I think that's going to be the bedrock. That's going to be what this team uses long term. Ghost looked dialed in. Yeah, he did. He looked very good. He's comfortable on his offside. So that's why it's like, if you put him with Slavin, he potentially would produce Tony DeAngelo-ish results. Slump says KK almost scored a nasty goal. Yeah, he's got all that stuff in his toolkit, and that was one of the things that I was talking about with him improving his skating. He wouldn't have done that as fluidly and quickly and as easily as he did this time. He wouldn't have done that last season. It's because he was more stable on his feet. He had more control of his edges, so it was easier for him to work to the front of the net, because the kid's got hands. He's got some skill. He knows how to use his frame. It's just his feet came out from underneath him in situations where they shouldn't. That didn't happen tonight. So, and he made a lot of good defensive plays as well. And Matthew P., last comment here, I believe. And then one more after that, and then I'm going to call it a night. Let's not forget the real highlight of the night. Charlie Serrato had 3 more assists. That kid is nasty. I mean, people are going to call him a McKenna merchant. I already know that, but, like, he was already good before Gavin McKenna got there, for anybody who was paying attention. Evan Smith says, yeah, the ESPN broadcast sucks. Mike and Tripp are the best in the business. Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, this has been fun. 1-0-0. So 81 to go. I will more than likely be able to do Landfall Hour on Saturday and Damage Report immediately after. And I'm going to be fasting that day, so I might be a little bit stupid. And additionally, part of the reason I'm fasting is because Desiree and I are probably going to an Italian food festival the next day. So I'm going to starve myself the day before and probably the day after to mitigate the effects of it. And I'm going to be going to the gym all 3 of those days. And luckily, I got ice time on Tuesday morning, and that'll take care of the rest of it. So, everyone, this has been wonderful. We're off to a good start. I will see you guys soon. Thank you very much for joining me. I will see you next time.